It was the 1970s Seoul, a time of change, freedom, and trust. Young people hitchhiked without fear. College campuses felt safe. Strangers were often seen as harmless. But hidden beneath that sense of security was a man who would become one of the most infamous killers in American history. His name was Ted Bundy, and he didn't look like a monster. He was charming, intelligent, well-spoken, the kind of man people trusted instantly, the kind of man you might help without a second thought. That's what made him so dangerous. Ted Bundy was born in 1946 in Vermont. From the beginning, his life was complicated. He was raised believing his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was actually his sister. The truth about his identity was hidden from him for years. Some believe this early deception played a role in shaping who he would become. As a young man, Bundy appeared normal. He studied psychology. He worked in politics. He even volunteered at a suicide hotline. People described him as polite, handsome, ambitious. But beneath that carefully constructed exterior, something dark was growing. In the early 1970s, young women began disappearing in Washington state. College students, bright, full of life, they vanished without a trace. Witnesses reported seeing a man, attractive with a cast on his arm, asking for help loading something into his car. His name, he said, was Ted. That detail would become chillingly important. Bundy had developed a method. He would pretend to be injured, gaining sympathy. When someone stopped to help him, he would strike. It was quick, controlled, calculated, and then they were gone. By 1974, the disappearances had escalated. 2 women vanished in broad daylight from a crowded beach at Lake Sammamish. Multiple witnesses saw the same man approach them, charming, confident, again. He introduced himself as Ted. It was one of the first major breaks in the case. But even with a name, the killer remained free. Ted Bundy moved across states, and the killings followed Utah, Colorado, Idaho. Each crime carried the same disturbing pattern, and yet he continued to evade capture because no one wanted to believe that someone like him could be responsible. Eventually, in 1975, Bundy was arrested, not for murder, but for kidnapping. Police began to connect the dots. The evidence was mounting. Witnesses identified him. His car matched descriptions. The timeline fit. But Bundy didn't panic. Instead, he represented himself in court, calm, confident, even charming the media. He seemed to enjoy the attention. Then, something unbelievable happened. He escaped, not once, but twice. The first time, he jumped from a courthouse window. The second time, he slipped through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell. It was like something out of a movie. But this was real, and now he was free again. In 1978, Bundy arrived in Florida, and what happened next was even more brutal. He broke into a sorority house at Florida State University. Inside, he attacked multiple women. 2 of them were killed. Others were left severely injured. It was a level of violence that shocked the nation. Shortly after, Bundy abducted a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach. It would be one of his final crimes. By this point, the manhunt was intense, and finally, police caught him. This time, there would be no escape. The trial that followed became a media sensation. For the first time, the world saw the face behind the crimes, and many were stunned. He didn't look like a killer. He looked ordinary. That was the terrifying part. Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death. For years, he sat on death row, giving interviews, confessing to crimes, though many believe the true number of victims may never be known. On January 24th, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida. Outside the prison, crowds gathered. Some cheered, others stood in silence, because the case had changed something. It shattered the illusion that evil always looks obvious. Ted Bundy wasn't a monster hiding in the shadows. He was someone who could smile, shake your hand, and gain your trust. And that's what made him unforgettable. His story remains one of the most disturbing in true crime history, not just because of what he did, but because of how easily he was able to do it. And even today, his name still sends a chill down the spine, because it reminds us of one simple truth. Sometimes the most dangerous people